Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Glenn Mills. It is time to go inside Utah politics. Utah healthcare advocate recently had a meeting with what he thought would be 2 senior advisors, but it turned out to be far more than that. Take a look.
Hey, Paul, can you hear us?
Hey, Paul, how are you?
All right, Paul Gibbs instead meeting with President Biden and former President Obama to discuss the Affordable Care Act. He's here now to talk about that experience. Paul, thanks for being on the show. Glad to have you with us.
Glad to be here.
That's quite a moment, and you can see it on your face.
Yes.
When you realize the moment you're talking to President Biden and former President Obama. What was going through your mind at that very second?
Oh, well, you know, when I saw President Biden, I just assumed that this was that was a pre-taped segment that they were rolling before they got to me, because that's happened in a couple of other events I've done. It was when I saw President Obama sitting there looking much more casual that I realized that's actually them. And it was so completely unexpected that I actually thought, so are they going to be talking with me and the 2 advisors? And then I realized, no, these are the 2 senior advisors with ACA experience.
Okay, so they were trying to make sure you were surprised, but I mean, they are 2 senior advisors, I would say, right?
Absolutely, certainly. I was specifically told they'd be senior advisors who had a lot of experience. One still working on the ACA and one who'd had a lot of experience with it in the past, but not necessarily as much opportunity to talk to the people directly affected by it as some. So that definitely fits the 2 former presidents, well, the current president and the former
So
president.
what were you thinking? Actually, just now, I want to get into that. We just saw your kids pop into the video there, your 2 sons. They are ages 7?
Timmy is 7, and Peter is 4.
Okay, and they got a chance to meet the 2 presidents as well. Talk to us about that moment. What happened there?
We actually had started talking about how the Affordable Care Act really gave my kids a chance to be born because it's allowed me to keep my health care despite what would have before been a huge pre-existing condition with a transplanted kidney. And I was mentioning them and the fact that Peter, the younger one, the 4-year-old, he has high blood pressure caused by a kidney issue he was born with, and he may have that his whole life, but because of the ACA, he's guaranteed the right to coverage for that. And as Peter was mentioned, he started to come over to look at the call because he loves, when I do other Zoom calls, he loves to join in on that. And Timmy decided to join with him, and they just stuck their heads into the frame, and it was it was a great moment for me because they're such a huge part of this, of my healthcare advocacy.
For sure. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Both President Biden and President Obama mentioned your kids specifically. Tell us what they said about them.
President Biden said that I had 2 beautiful boys, and President Obama said that they looked like a handful, and they're both completely right.
Two true statements. Okay, how was this all set up? What were you thinking going into this?
This was set up through an advocacy organization in Washington, D.C. called Families USA that I do a lot of work with. And they told me and some other people with other advocates with healthcare experience, telling our stories of how the Affordable Care Act has impacted us. They told us that they needed some people, some storytellers, to be involved in an event for the 13th anniversary of the passing of the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act. And so then they connected us with some White House staff members who took us through, I think, 3 Zoom calls before kind of interviewing us and making sure we were right for what they wanted, and then making sure that we were kind of comfortable with what was going on. And they did an amazing job of making us as comfortable as we could possibly be with understanding what was going on, while leaving me without the slightest inkling
of who
I'd be talking to. It never remotely crossed my mind that it might be those 2.
There were some other people on the call with you. I think at least 2 others.
Yes, we were on the call separately. It was one of us at a time. There were 2 other
So you didn't necessarily have a chance to interact with some of the other.
I did in previous calls, but not during this call with the 2 presidents.
Okay. What did you tell President Biden and President Obama on this call? What was your main message?
My main message was that the the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, and I always like to call it by its full name because it's the patient protections that have been so crucial to me. But that law has really given me my life and my family, because when I needed a kidney transplant 15 years ago, I was uninsured and I was terrified, and I was able to get it because of combination of Medicare and Medicaid and an incredible friend who actually was a producer here at ABC 4 decades ago, who gave me his kidney. But after that, I needed the protection to not have that taken away from me, because that would have been a huge pre-existing condition back in the day. And it was that protection of the pre-existing condition that gave me the security to be able to go back to work and continue my life, get married, and have those two beautiful handful boys. So I wouldn't be here without it. My boys wouldn't have had a chance to be born without it. And that's what I really wanted them to understand, is that this law has been literally a life and death issue for me and my family.
And what did they say back to you? What was their message?
Their message was that that's why it exists. That's what they did it for. That's what they wanted, was for it to protect people and families, to give them that ability to live and to conduct their lives in a way that they were able to work and have that security to do what they needed to do, and that children could grow up knowing that they weren't going to be priced out of healthcare because they were born something.
As you take a look at the law right now, do you believe there are ways to improve it potentially?
Yes, I think there are ways we can continue to improve it.
What are some things that stick out to you?
The biggest thing is that there are still people who are not getting it. We need to. I'm always in favor of expanding eligibility. Something very important happened just the same day as I received the call, which was that North Carolina finally expanded Medicaid. That's one of the big things we need to do, is continue now and expand Medicaid in the 10 states that haven't done it yet, that, of course, is optional. The states can choose whether or not to expand Medicaid. We, as you know, did it here in Utah, eventually after a long fight. We need to make sure, one thing that the Biden administration has done that I've been very happy with is that they've gone through and looked at some of the cracks in the system of the original law, where people fell through the cracks and weren't meeting the eligibility for subsidies and the things they needed to make it affordable, because we know that these plans can get very expensive. I want to see things that can continue to bring premiums down, bring deductibles down, and make it so people can really be eligible for affordable care.
Yeah,
the
be able to pay for it.
Yes, the patient protection part, I think, has been an overwhelming success. The affordable care is still an ongoing process that needs to be worked on.
All right. Paul, what a great experience, and we're so happy to have you on to talk about it. Thanks so much for sharing some of your time with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Still to come, what does the future of law enforcement in Salt Lake